Good day everyone. Now we are in the module 3 lesson 2, the overview of the Data Privacy Act of 2012. The first reporter will be I, Megan Ricas. Next will be Ms. Gomisad and then Ms. Gamalo. So in this lesson, we will be discussing the importance of data privacy law and identify the government rules in the protection of our personal information. So before we formally start with our main topic, let's have first an analysis. As you can see in the picture, imagine you are the person who are going to an internet cafe, and then when you go out of that place, you don't have anything you have. You lose everything that you possess. So since we are going to tackle about Data Privacy Act, in your own perspective, how is it important to understand this Data Privacy Act? So yeah, it is really important not to understand Data Privacy Act in order for us to know that we can have a control of our data, empowering them to know how our data is being used, by whom and why, giving them control over how our personal data is being processed and used, like for example in an organization or businesses. Knowing data privacy, we are aware that we can manage personal data in a transparent and compliant way, be accountable for personal data they process, and adhere to privacy principles, because if we are not aware of these things, the Data Privacy Act, then sensitive information will be compromised, which can impact our personal lives, like what can you see in the picture. So to understand more about Data Privacy Act, this was actually passed in the Congress in 2012 and was implemented in 2016. It assures the free flow of information to promote innovation and growth while protecting the user's fundamental rights to privacy. So Republic Act 10173 protects and maintains the right of customers to confidential by setting a legal list of rules for companies to regulate the collection, handling, and disposal of all personal information. So all personal information must be collected for lawful purposes that are understood by both the people who are providing and receiving the information with a person. So before we get the personal information of a person, it is really important to have that person's consent. And all data use must be important and used only for the stated purposes for which it was collected. So from the point of collection until disposal, businesses or organizations must safeguard or protect the person's information and prevent any access from unauthorized parties, because it can have a bad outcomes, like for example fraud, phishing, hacking, and any identity theft, and so on and so forth. So some examples of personal information is your name, your email address, your age, your national ID number, your LRN, your TIN number, and so on and so forth. So also, have you noticed how every page you visit or app that you use online tries to get its hands on your personal data? It might be just your name or your email, but still this data is something that should technically belong only to you. And this is where data privacy comes in. Data privacy is the way in which you attempt to keep your privacy online. As an internet user, you need to know exactly who can see your online activity, as well as what third parties are going to do with that data. So overall, it allows us to keep control of our data, or our personal data, which will be more explained to our next reporter, Ms. Gomisad.
Okay, to continue the discussion, let's proceed to the next topic, which is the personal information. Okay, so when we say personal information now, it refers to any information, whether recorded in a material form or not, from which the identity of an individual is apparent or can be reasonably and directly ascertained by the entity holding the information, or when put together with other information would directly and certainly identify an individual. So in short, personal information includes data that identifies an individual, like full names, home address, telephone or cell phone numbers, birthdays, and email address. So, Republic Act number 10173, an act protecting individual personal information in information and communication system in the government and the private sector, creating for this purpose a National Privacy Commission and for other purposes. So, it is the policy of the state na to protect the fundamental human right of privacy of communication while ensuring free flow of information to promote innovation and growth. So our personal information is very important, so we really need to protect it. But there are more of our personal information that really needs protecting against unauthorized access to minimize possible harm. And this is what we call sensitive personal information. So as you can see now, there are 4 groups. So the first one is about an individual's race, ethnic origin, marital status, age, color and religious, philosophical or political affiliations. And the second one, about an individual's health, education, genetic or sexual life of a person, or to any proceeding for any offense committed or alleged to have been committed by such person, the disposal of such proceedings, or the sentence of any court in such proceedings. And the next is issued by government agencies peculiar to an individual, which includes but not limited to social security numbers, previous or same rent health records, license or its denials, suspensions or revocation, and tax return. And the last one, specifically established by an executive order or an act of Congress to be kept classified. So these are the sensitive personal informations na that really needs protection. Laws protect personal information as a whole, but add extra focus to sensitive information because of possible impacts to a person's livelihood, quality of life, and ability to participate in daily activities. Because if this sensitive personal information revealed, it can leave us vulnerable to discrimination or harassment. So careful jud ta sa atong mga actions, no, and as much as possible let's lessen posting or revealing any information about us if it is not necessary. Because the more information you share on any social media platforms, the more you put your identity, accounts, and finances at risk. The more you put yourself closer to privacy problems like hacking and accounts takeovers, identity theft or stealing of identity, cyberbullying and online harassment, and etc. So all in all, we must be really careful of our actions, no? Dili ta mapataka og post or share og mga information about sa atoa. Nya wa ta kabalo kung kinsa ang atong or kinsa or unsa ang atong gi-share. Kaya sa panahon karon daghan na kaayog mga scammer, mga hacker, so ako maingon na jud, careful ta sa atong actions. And I believe na familiar mo ani na saying, think before you click. And that's all for my part. And here is Miss Jean Gamalo to continue the discussion.
Consent under the Republic Act 10173 or the Data Privacy Act refers to the data subject as freely given, specific, informed indication of will whereby the data subject agrees to the collection and processing of personal information about and or relating to him or her. In simple word, consent deals with an approval of the data subject. Moreover, consent shall be evidenced by written, electronic or recorded means. It may also be given on behalf of the data subject by an agent specifically authorized by the data subject to do so. Now, let us talk about the right of the data subject. The data subject or the individual sharing information has to be fully informed of several factors of the data collecting process. So, I will be sharing some of the rights of the data subject. First is the reason for use. Second, methods for access. The third one is the identity and contact details of the personal information controller. The fourth one is how long the information will be stored for. And the last one, or the fifth, is the access to the rights. That would be all, and I hope you learned something today. Thank you.